The Galactic Council had never been this quiet. 712 civilizations had gathered inside the Grand Assembly Chamber, each represented by ambassadors, military commanders, royal advisors, and observers from worlds scattered across thousands of light years. At the center of that enormous chamber stood one human, Admiral Elias Ward. He stood alone. No delegation stood behind him. No allied representatives, no fleet commanders, no politicians. Only a single human officer wearing a dark military uniform and carrying the flag of Earth on his shoulder. Behind him floated a holographic image of humanity's homeworld, Earth, blue, beautiful, and completely surrounded by the symbols of the Galactic Alliance. The High Counselor slowly rose from his elevated platform. He belonged to the Devourers species, one of the oldest civilizations in the known galaxy. His people had ruled interstellar politics for nearly 6,000 years. His voice echoed through the chamber. Admiral Ward, today the Galactic Council will determine whether humanity remains a member of civilized galactic society. Elias didn't respond. He already knew the answer. The decision had been made before he ever entered the chamber. The hearing was simply theater. The High Counselor continued. Humanity has violated Alliance restrictions 17 times. A holographic record appeared. Unauthorized weapons development. Another image. Illegal colonization beyond approved borders. Another. Refusal to dismantle independent military fleets. Another. Interference in regional conflicts. Another. The list continued. Elias listened quietly. Then the High Counselor said something that finally made him look up. Humanity has repeatedly demonstrated that it does not recognize the authority of the Galactic Council. Elias looked directly at him. That isn't true. The chamber stirred. The counselor raised an eyebrow. Explain. We recognize legitimate authority. Elias took one step forward. We don't recognize people who demand obedience while refusing responsibility. Several alien representatives began whispering. The counselor's expression hardened. You are standing before the highest governing body in known space, yes, and yet you challenge its authority. No. Elias looked around the chamber. We challenge your hypocrisy. Silence. Absolute silence. The counselor leaned forward. Be careful, human. Elias almost smiled. I'm always careful. The counselor gestured toward another holographic display. A human colony appeared. The colony had once been prosperous. Now it was burning. Your people established this settlement outside protected Alliance territory. Elias stared at the image. That colony requested protection from the Council. The counselor said nothing. We sent 6 requests, Elias continued. 4 military requests. 2 evacuation requests. That territory was disputed. There were 12,000 civilians on that planet. Your government accepted the risk. Elias's jaw tightened. My government accepted the risk because you refused to help. A few alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. Elias looked at the burning colony again. There were children there. The counselor's voice remained cold. War always has casualties. Elias looked back at him. Then why do your civilizations call themselves civilized? That question spread through the chamber like an explosion. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then the counselor activated the final vote. A massive symbol appeared above the chamber. Expulsion of humanity from the Galactic Alliance. Elias looked at it. He wasn't surprised. He was disappointed. That was somehow worse. One by one, the votes appeared. Approve. 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 Thousands of alien representatives voted. Most didn't even look at him. Humanity had become a political inconvenience, an unpredictable species, a civilization that refused to behave, according to rules written by people who had never lived on Earth. Finally, the voting ended. The result appeared. When 4% in favor humanity was expelled, all human military forces were ordered to withdraw from Alliance space. Every human colony inside protected territory would be surrendered. All diplomatic agreements were canceled. All human citizens would have 90 standard days to leave, and no human vessel would be permitted to return. The High Counselor looked at Elias. "Admiral Ward, do you accept the judgment of the Galactic Council?" Elias looked at the symbol above him. Then he looked at the representatives. He thought about Earth, about the colonies, about the soldiers who had died defending people who had never even learned their names. Then he nodded. "Yes." The counselor looked surprised. "You accept?" Elias turned toward the chamber doors. "We accept the decision." He stopped. "But don't confuse acceptance with surrender." The chamber became silent again. Elias continued walking. As he reached the doors, an alien ambassador called out, "Human!" Elias stopped. The ambassador leaned forward. "You should understand something." Elias looked back. "Beyond the galactic frontier there is nothing." Another ambassador joined in. "No civilized worlds." Another. "No hyperspace routes." Another. "No established trade." Another. "No protection." The first ambassador smiled. "You are being sent into darkness." Elias stared at them. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. "Then we'll bring our own light." He walked out, and humanity left the galaxy. 90 days later, the last human fleet crossed the border. There were 12,000 ships, warships, colony vessels, medical transports, mining ships, agricultural carriers, research vessels, and millions of civilians. The fleet moved slowly through hyperspace. At the front was the colony ship Odyssey. It carried 20 million people. Children watched through reinforced observation windows as the last lights of the Galactic Alliance disappeared behind them. Some adults cried, some cursed the Council, some remained silent. But nobody turned around. At the command center of the Odyssey, Admiral Elias Ward watched the navigation display, and Earth was already millions of light years behind them. The captain approached. "Admiral." Elias didn't look away. "Yes? We've crossed the frontier." Elias nodded. "Any traffic?" "None." "Civilization?" "None." "No navigation routes?" "None." The captain hesitated. "And our destination?" Elias finally looked at him. "Unknown." The captain gave a nervous laugh. "That's comforting." Elias smiled. "We've survived worse." Outside the ship, the galaxy disappeared completely. Ahead was darkness. But humanity kept moving. They didn't know what waited beyond the frontier. They didn't know whether they would find a home. They didn't know how many would die. They didn't know that somewhere in that darkness, something ancient had been waiting for them for 70,000 years. They only knew one thing. They had been told they didn't belong, so they would build somewhere they did. And 200 years later, when the galaxy finally heard from humanity again, the first message wasn't a declaration of war. It was something far more frightening. A simple transmission from beyond the edge of known space. "We found them." For 200 years, the Galactic Alliance heard nothing from humanity. At first, the Council expected the humans to return. They expected distress signals, requests for assistance, perhaps even surrender. But nothing came. The human frontier simply disappeared beyond the edge of known space. The Galactic Council eventually stopped talking about them. Humanity became a historical footnote, a failed experiment, dangerous species that had been removed before it could cause a larger problem. The younger civilizations barely knew humans had ever existed. But far beyond the galactic frontier, humanity was doing something very different. It was rebuilding. The first 20 years were brutal. The human fleet lost ships to radiation storms. Colonies disappeared. Thousands died from unfamiliar diseases. Several worlds that appeared habitable turned out to contain atmospheres poisonous to humans. But every disaster taught humanity something. Every failure created a better design. Every lost colony created a stronger generation. Humanity adapted, then it expanded. Small settlements became cities. Cities became nations. Nations became worlds, and worlds became a new civilization. The people born beyond the frontier no longer thought of the Galactic Alliance as their home. They called it something else. The old Galaxy.A place their ancestors had left behind. the end of the 2nd century, humanity had built something the Galactic Council had never imagined. The United Human Federation had controlled hundreds of star systems. Its shipyards produced warships larger than anything humanity had possessed during the Exile. Its scientists had developed new forms of propulsion. Its explorers had traveled farther than any Alliance expedition had ever gone. But one thing had never changed: humanity still didn't know what existed beyond the farthest human colonies. That was where Captain Mara Vance came in. Mara stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Resolute, staring at the stars. She was 38 years old. Her grandfather had been born aboard the original Odyssey. Her parents had never seen Earth. Mara herself had seen Earth only through archived images. Yet she carried its symbol on her uniform, not because she wanted to return, because she wanted to. "Remember, Captain," Lieutenant Chen called. Mara turned. "What?" Chen was staring at his sensor display. "You should see this." Mara walked toward him. "What did we find?" "I'm not sure." "That isn't an answer." "I know." Chen enlarged the display. A small pulse appeared, then disappeared. Mara frowned. "Signal?" "Yes." "Human?" "No." "Natural?" Chen shook his head. "Definitely artificial." Mara folded her arms. "Where?" Chen entered the coordinates, then he stopped. Mara noticed. "Chen?" He swallowed. "The signal is coming from the Black Reach." Mara's expression changed. Nobody called that region by its official name anymore. The Black Reach was a massive region beyond the human frontier. No stars, no planets, no known gravitational bodies. It was the largest unexplored area in human space. Exploration. Vessels had entered it before. None had returned. Mara stared at the coordinates. "How old is the signal?" Chen looked at the data. His face became even more serious. "We don't know. Estimate, Captain." "Chen." He looked at her. "The signal may be older than human civilization." Nobody on the bridge spoke. Mara looked toward the dark region ahead, and course, Chen hesitated. "Captain, the Black Reach is outside Federation exploration limits." "I know. We have no mapped routes." "I know. If we lose our engines." "I know." Chen stared at her. "Then why are we going?" Mara looked at the strange signal. "Because somebody out there wants to be found." The Resolute accelerated. For 3 days, the ship traveled through darkness. Then, they crossed into the Black Reach. The stars vanished. All around them was darkness. The ship's sensors became almost useless. Mara watched the navigation display. Distance to signal, 30 million kilometers. Continue, 20 million. The ship moved deeper, 10 million. Then something appeared. At first, Chen thought it was an asteroid. Then the sensors corrected the image. It wasn't an asteroid. It was a structure. Mara stood. "How large?" Chen stared at the measurements. "I'm recalculating. Give me the first estimate. 1,000 kilometers. The bridge went quiet. Chen recalculated. "Correction. How large?" 3,000. Another pause. "Correction." Mara walked closer. "Chen?" He slowly turned around. "Captain, I think our sensors are measuring only a small section." Mara looked at the main screen. The structure became visible. It stretched across the darkness. It was enormous. Thousands of kilometers long, black as empty space. No lights, no visible weapons, no engines, no windows. It looked dead. Then the entire structure came alive. Millions of lights appeared. The bridge filled with warning alarms. Power surge, energy, levels increasing. Something is happening. Mara grabbed the command console. "Full reverse." The ship's engines fired. Nothing happened. "Why aren't we moving?" Chen's voice shook. "Our engines are functioning." "Then what's stopping us?" Chen looked at the sensors. "I don't know." The structure began opening. Space itself seemed to bend. A circular gateway appeared. Beyond it was a star system. Mara stared. There should not have been a star system there. The Black Reach had no stars. Yet now she could see one. A white star and 12 planets. The 4th planet was covered in lights. "Not natural light cities," Mara whispered. That's impossible. Chen couldn't take his eyes off the display. There are millions of them. The ship received an incoming transmission. Every screen on the bridge went black. Then words appeared. "Welcome, children of Sol." Mara froze. Chen looked at her. "Captain, I see it." Another message appeared. "We have waited for you." Mara opened the communication channel. "This is Captain Mara Vance of the United Human Federation. Identify yourself." Static filled the bridge. Then a voice answered. "We have many names." Mara waited. "But your ancestors knew us as the Aethel." Chen searched every database. Nothing. No record. No mention. Not even a myth. Mara asked the question slowly. "Why do you know humanity?" The voice answered. "Because humanity once saved us." Mara felt her heart stop. "That is impossible." "No." The voice became softer. "You simply forgot." The screen changed. An image appeared. Earth. But not the Earth Mara knew. There were no cities. No artificial lights. No satellites, no highways, only oceans, forests, mountains, and primitive human settlements. Then another figure appeared beside the humans. Tall. Silver-eyed. Aethel. Mara stepped closer to the screen. "Where did you get this?" "From your world." "When?" The answer came immediately. 70,000 years ago. Nobody on the bridge moved. Mara felt a cold sensation run through her body. 70,000 years. Humanity hadn't even built its first cities. The Aethel had known humans before civilization itself. Mara asked the question that suddenly mattered more than anything else. What happened? The Aethel voice became quiet. Our people were dying. The image changed. A beautiful civilization appeared. Then the stars around it went dark. One by one, worlds disappeared. Cities burned. A vast alien fleet entered the system. The Aethel called them the Devourers. They came from beyond our galaxy, the voice explained. They consumed worlds. They destroyed civilizations. They did not seek territory. They did not seek resources. They sought extinction. Mara stared at the images. How did your people survive? There was a long silence. Then the Aethel answered. Because your ancestors found us. The screen showed primitive humans carrying injured Aethel survivors through a forest. They had every reason to kill us. But they did not. They gave us food. They protected our wounded. They hid us from predators. They learned our language. And when our ship was repaired, the image changed. The Aethel spacecraft rose from ancient Earth. Your ancestors helped us leave. Mara looked down. And you promised to return? Yes. Why didn't you? The Aethel voice became almost sad. Because we were too late. Mara looked up. What does that mean? The answer came slowly. We returned 70,000 years ago. Mara's eyes widened. You came back? Yes. We searched for you. The screen showed an ancient Earth, but there were no Aethel. No trace of our people remained. The Aethel continued. Your species had changed. Your languages had changed. Your civilizations had risen and fallen. We watched. We waited. We believed one day humanity would reach the stars. Mara stared at the screen. And now? The Aethel finally revealed why they had activated the gateway. Now you have. Mara took a slow breath. What do you want from us? The Aethel did not answer immediately. Instead, every screen aboard the Resolute changed. A map appeared. The galaxy. Then the region beyond it. Red points began appearing. 1, 10, 100, thousands. Mara's expression hardened. What am I looking at? The Aethel answered. The Devourers. Chen stepped forward. They're alive? Yes. How many? The Aethel's voice was quiet, enough to destroy the galaxy. Mara stared at the map. How long? Until they arrive? Yes. The answer came. 4 years. Nobody spoke. Mara looked toward the strange civilization hidden beyond the Black Reach. A civilization that had waited 70,000 years. A civilization that had once been saved by primitive humans, and now the same civilization was asking humanity for help. Mara closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them. Open a secure channel to Earth. Chen nodded. What should I tell them? Mara looked at the ancient world beyond the gateway. Tell the Federation we found something. Chen waited. Mara continued. Tell them the galaxy isn't as old as we thought. She looked toward the Aethel. And tell them the oldest civilization in existence just asked humanity for help. The Aethel leader appeared again. There is one more thing. Mara looked at him. What? The alien's expression changed. You believe you came here searching for us. Mara said nothing. The Aethel continued. You are mistaken. A pause. We called you. Mara's blood ran cold. Why? The Aethel looked directly into the camera. Because the Devourers have already entered your galaxy. The transmission ended, and for the first time in 200 years, humanity looked back toward the galaxy it had once been exiled from. The war had already begun. The transmission ended. For several seconds, nobody aboard the Resolute moved. The bridge was completely silent. Mara Vance stared at the empty communication screen. The last words of the Aethel leader remained in her mind. The Devourers have already entered your galaxy. She slowly turned toward Lieutenant Chen. Send everything we have to Earth. Chen immediately moved to his station. What about the Aethel? Mara looked toward the enormous civilization beyond the gateway. We're taking them with us. Chen stopped. Captain? Mara's expression hardened. If they are telling the truth, we don't have 4 years. She pointed toward the star map. We have 4 years until the Devourers reach the core worlds. Chen looked at the red points appearing across the map. Then he noticed something. Captain? What? These aren't future projections. Mara walked toward him. What are you talking about? Chen enlarged the display. The red points weren't moving toward the galaxy. They were already inside it. Look, Mara stared. The nearest red marker was located inside Federation territory, only 37 light-years from a human colony. Her expression changed. That's impossible. Chen shook his head. It's not. Mara looked at the Aethel leader's last transmission. They're already here. The Resolute turned toward home. Its engines reached maximum output. For the first time in human history, humanity wasn't exploring the unknown. It was racing back from it. The journey took 9 hours. 9 hours during which Mara received no communication from Earth. No updates, no distress signals, nothing. That silence frightened her more than an emergency transmission would have. When the Federation relay finally appeared, Chen immediately connected. Federation Command, this is the Resolute. Priority transmission. Static, Mara frowned. Again. Chen transmitted. Nothing. Try military frequency. Nothing. Emergency frequency. Nothing. Mara looked at him. Are we being jammed? Chen checked the instruments. No. Then why can't we reach them? He stared at the console. Because there are no signals. Mara's stomach tightened. From the Federation? From anyone? The ship crossed into the nearest human system. The stars appeared normally. The planets were there. The orbital stations were there. But every light was gone. Mara stared through the bridge windows. The colony world below was dark. No cities. No orbital traffic. No communication satellites. Nothing. Chen whispered. Captain. Mara already knew. Scan the planet. The sensors activated. The results appeared. Atmosphere stable, oceans intact, cities intact, but life signs almost zero. Mara's face went pale. Take us down. The Resolute entered the atmosphere. The planet looked normal from above. Then the ship passed over the first city. Mara saw the streets. Thousands of vehicles were abandoned. Buildings were intact. Doors were open. Lights were off. There were no bodies. No battle damage. No signs of bombardment. Just emptiness. The entire population had vanished. Mara ordered a landing. A security team entered the city. They found food still sitting on tables, machines still running. A child's toy was lying in the middle of a street. A glass of water was still sitting beside a chair. It looked like everyone had simply disappeared. Then one soldier found something. A black mark, burned into the wall. It looked like a handprint, but it wasn't human. Mara touched the surface. The material was cold. What is this? The soldier shook his head. We don't know. Chen suddenly shouted through the communicator. Captain! Mara turned. What? Something is approaching the planet. Ship? No. How many? Chen looked at his sensors. 1. Mara waited. Then Chen's voice became quiet. It's enormous. The sky darkened. Something appeared above the planet. It was not a ship in the conventional sense. It looked like a piece of darkness cut from space itself. No lights, no engines, no visible structure. It simply appeared. Then the black object opened. Thousands of smaller vessels emerged. Mara looked up. The Devourers had arrived. The soldiers around her raised their weapons. Mara activated the planetary defense system. Nothing happened. Why aren't the defenses responding? Chen checked the network. They're offline. Why? I don't know. Mara looked toward the sky. The Devourer vessels began descending. Then something unexpected happened. The Aethel gateway opened above the planet. A fleet emerged, not hundreds of ships, not thousands, millions. The sky filled with silver vessels. The Aethel had followed them. The Devourers stopped. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the largest Devourer vessel transmitted. Mara's communicator activated automatically. A voice filled the air. You, the Aethel leader answered. Yes, you survived. We did. You were supposed to die. The Aethel leader looked toward the Devourer vessel. You made that mistake 70,000 years ago. The Devourer answered. And now you bring humans. Mara stepped forward. The alien voice continued. You have no idea what they are. The Aethel leader smiled. We know exactly what they are. The Devourer laughed. They are fragile. Mara looked up. The Devourer continued. They are temporary. They are young. They are insignificant. Mara smiled. That's where you're wrong. The Devourer ship turned toward her. You speak? Mara looked at the sky. I do. And who are you? Mara answered. Humanity. The Devourer went silent. Then the entire fleet attacked. The sky exploded. Aethel ships moved first, their weapons bent space. Devourer vessels vanished by the thousands. Human warships entered the atmosphere behind them. The Resolute fired every weapon it had. Missiles climbed into the sky. Railguns fired. Energy cannons opened. The Devourers responded. Their weapons were unlike anything humanity had encountered. They did not destroy ships, they erased them. A human cruiser simply vanished, no explosion, no debris. Nothing. Another disappeared. Then another. Mara watched the tactical display. We're losing ships, Chen answered. Fast. Mara looked at the Aethel fleet. They can handle this. Chen shook his head. No. Mara looked at him. The Aethel are retreating. What? Chen pointed toward the display. They're moving away from the planet. Mara stared. The Aethel fleet was withdrawing. The Devourers were advancing. Mara opened a channel. Aethel command, this is Mara Vance. The Aethel leader answered. Go. Why are you retreating? There was silence. Then he said, We are not retreating. Mara frowned. What? We are giving you space. Why? Because you need to see. Mara looked toward the Devourer fleet. See what? The Aethel leader answered. Their weakness. The communication ended. Mara stared at the battlefield. For the first time, she understood. The Aethel weren't afraid. They were testing the enemy. She looked at the Devourer fleet. The ships were moving in a perfect formation. Every vessel reacted simultaneously. Every attack was coordinated. Every maneuver was identical. Mara suddenly noticed something. Chen. Yes? Isolate their command signals. Chen began working. Mara watched the enemy formation. They're too synchronized. Chen looked up. What? They don't fight independently. He checked the data. Mara continued. They're connected. Chen's eyes widened. Like a network. Exactly. Mara looked at the battlefield. If one ship reacts, all the others know. Chen suddenly smiled. So if we disrupt the network? Mara finished the sentence. They become blind. The Resolute changed course. Mara opened a fleet channel. All human ships, stop attacking the main fleet. Confusion spread across the network. A commander answered. Captain, we're losing the planet. I know. Then what are we doing? Mara looked toward the largest Devourer vessel. We're hunting the signal. The human fleet changed formation. Instead of attacking the enemy ships, they began targeting communication nodes. One by one, they destroyed them. The Devourer formation began to break. A ship turned left. Another turned right. A third stopped. For the first time, the enemy hesitated. Mara smiled. Now, humanity attacked. The battle changed instantly. Devourer ships began colliding with each other. Their coordinated defenses failed. Human missiles penetrated their shields. Aethel ships returned. The ancient fleet struck the enemy from behind. Within minutes, the Devourer formation collapsed. The largest vessel attempted to escape. Mara ordered every available ship to pursue. The Devourer vessel opened a dimensional corridor. Mara's eyes narrowed. Don't let it escape. The Resolute followed. Chen shouted, Captain, we're entering unknown space. Mara didn't hesitate. Good. The ship crossed the corridor. Everything went dark. Then the stars disappeared. The Resolute emerged somewhere else. Mara looked through the bridge windows. Her breath stopped. They were above a planet. But this planet was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Its surface was covered in enormous structures, ancient structures, older than the Aethel civilization, older than human civilization, older than anything. Chen whispered. Captain. Mara stared. What? He pointed toward the planet. There are millions of ships down there. Mara looked closer. The ships were buried, thousands of them, perhaps millions. The Devourer vessel had brought them here. Then a signal appeared. Not from the Devourer ship, from the planet. A voice filled the bridge. It was not the Aethel. It was not the Devourers. It was something else. Something ancient. Something that sounded almost human. Finally, Mara froze. The voice continued. We have been waiting for the children of Sol. Mara looked at Chen. Did you hear that? Chen nodded slowly. The ancient voice spoke again. The Aethel were not the first civilization to meet humanity. Mara's heart began pounding. The planet below came alive. Millions of buried ships began powering up, and somewhere deep beneath the surface, something enormous opened its eyes. The voice whispered one final sentence. Humanity was never exiled. Mara stared at the planet. You were removed from the galaxy. The voice continued. Because someone wanted you to survive. The screen went black. And for the first time since humanity had left the galaxy 200 years ago, Mara realized something terrifying. The exile had never been an accident. Someone had planned it. And whoever had planned it had been waiting for humanity to return. For several seconds, Mara could not speak. The planet beneath the Resolute was alive. Not with cities, not with modern civilization, with machines, millions of them. Ancient warships were rising from beneath the surface, their enormous hulls breaking through mountains and oceans as if the planet itself had been hiding an army. Chen stared at the tactical display. Captain, I see them. Those ships are bigger than anything we've ever built. Mara looked at the Devourer vessel that had brought them here. It was still drifting nearby. But the Devourer crew had stopped transmitting. Then something strange happened. The Devourer ship powered down. Its weapons disappeared. Its shields collapsed. Mara frowned. Why are they surrendering? Chen checked the sensors. They aren't. Then what? They're afraid. Mara turned toward him. Devourers don't get afraid. Chen pointed toward the planet. Apparently they do. The ancient voice returned. Humanity. Mara stepped closer to the communication console. Who are you? There was a long silence. Then the voice answered. We were here before the Aethel. Mara looked toward Chen. Before the Aethel? Yes. Who are you? We were called many names. The planet below began glowing. Massive symbols appeared across its surface. Mara's translation system struggled. Finally, one word appeared. Origin. Mara whispered it. Origin? The voice answered. That is what your species would call us. Mara felt a strange pressure in her chest. You knew humans? We knew the first humans. 70,000 years ago? No. The voice paused. Much earlier. Mara stared at the display. That isn't possible. Your history is incomplete. The ancient civilization began transmitting images. Mara saw Earth. Then she saw Earth before humans. Then Earth before mammals. Then Earth before the dinosaurs. The images continued backward. Millions of years. Hundreds of millions. Then billions. Mara watched in disbelief. Earth wasn't the only world shown. Thousands of planets appeared. Each one contained traces of ancient civilization. Ruins, machines, cities buried beneath continents. The voice continued. We seeded life across the galaxy. Mara's eyes widened. You created life? No. The voice became strangely gentle. We gave life the opportunity to begin. Mara stared at the screen. Why? Because we believed intelligence should never belong to one species. The images changed. Humanity appeared. The first humans, then the first cities, then the first civilizations. The voice continued. But your species was different. Mara frowned. Different how? The answer came immediately. You adapted too quickly. Mara almost smiled. That sounds familiar. It frightened us. Mara looked at the ancient planet. Why? Because every other intelligent species developed within limits. The ancient voice paused. Humans did not. Mara remained silent. You survived environments that should have killed you. You crossed oceans without technology. You survived climate changes. You rebuilt after extinction events. You developed cooperation between unrelated tribes. You turned predators into companions. You transformed fire into industry. You looked at the stars and decided they belonged to no one. Mara smiled. So you were afraid of us? No, the voice answered. We were afraid of what would happen if someone else discovered you. Mara's smile disappeared. Who? The planet began shaking. The ancient ships continued rising. Then an enormous holographic map appeared. It showed the galaxy. Then something beyond the galaxy. A region of darkness. The Devourers. But they were not alone. Behind them was something much larger. Something the size of multiple galaxies. Mara stared. What is that? The voice answered. The reason you were exiled. Mara's heart stopped. The Galactic Council? No. The Devourers? No. Then who? The voice spoke one word. The architects. Mara felt the bridge grow colder. Chen asked quietly. Who are the architects? The ancient civilization answered. They built the Devourers. Silence. Mara stared at the display. The Devourers were not the ultimate enemy. They were weapons. Weapons created by something far older, something powerful enough to create entire fleets of planet-eating machines. Mara slowly understood. The Devourers aren't invading the galaxy. No, they're searching for something. Yes. Mara's voice became quiet. What? The answer was immediate. Humanity. The bridge went silent. Mara stared at the stars. Why? The ancient voice replied. Because you are the only species they cannot control. Mara stepped back. What does that mean? The voice continued. Every intelligent civilization in this galaxy has been observed. Every civilization has been studied. Every civilization has been manipulated. Every civilization has been given limits, except humanity. Mara shook her head. Why didn't they control us? The answer came. Because we hid you. Mara froze. You? Yes. From the architects? Yes. How? We erased your location from the galactic network. Mara remembered the council, the exile, the sudden decision, the alliance refusing to defend humanity, the frontier, the strange absence of communication. She looked at Chen, then back at the ancient civilization. You manipulated the Galactic Council. We influenced them. You made them exile us. Yes. Mara's expression hardened. You destroyed our home. No. The voice became softer. We removed you from danger. You separated humanity from Earth. Earth was protected. You forced millions of humans into unknown space, and humanity survived. Mara clenched her fists. You don't get to decide that for us. The ancient civilization became silent. For the first time, it seemed almost uncertain. Mara continued. You may have saved humanity, but you also stole our choice. The voice answered, yes. Mara wasn't expecting that. The ancient civilization admitted it. We made a decision for your species. Why? Because we believed survival was more important than freedom. Mara looked toward the planet. And now? The ancient voice answered. Now we know we were wrong. The massive fleet around the planet stopped moving. Millions of ancient ships remained silent. Mara stared at them. What changed? The voice replied. You returned. Mara frowned. What does that mean? When humanity was young, you needed protection. You hid. When humanity became advanced, you needed guidance. You watched. When humanity was exiled, you were angry. You survived. And when the galaxy was threatened, the voice paused. You came back. Mara slowly understood. You're saying humanity has changed? No. The voice answered. You have revealed what you always were. Mara looked toward the stars. A strange feeling filled her. For generations, humanity had believed that its greatest strength was technology. Then it believed it was adaptability. Then courage. Now Mara realized something deeper. Humanity's greatest strength was choice. Humans could choose what they became. They could choose revenge, or they could choose mercy. They could choose isolation, or they could choose cooperation. They could choose power, or responsibility. And that was exactly what frightened the architects. Because a species that could choose its own path could never be completely controlled. Suddenly the Devourer ship transmitted again. Its voice sounded different. Not threatening. Desperate. Humanity. Mara turned. Speak. The Devourer answered. We were not created to destroy you. Mara's eyes narrowed. What were you created for? The Devourer paused. To prevent the architects from finding you. Mara froze. The ancient civilization went silent. For the first time, the two civilizations seemed equally shocked. Mara looked between them. You're saying the Devourers were created to hide humanity? Yes, but they destroyed worlds. We were ordered to destroy civilizations that discovered the truth. Mara's face hardened. That's not protection. No. The Devourer sounded almost broken. It became something else. Mara understood. The original purpose had been protection. Then the architects changed the mission. The Devourers became weapons. Worlds were destroyed. Civilizations disappeared. And humanity remained hidden. Until now. The Devourer continued. The architects know you have returned. Mara looked toward the ancient planet. How long? The answer came. They are already coming. The stars suddenly changed. Thousands of red points appeared on the tactical display. Then millions. Chen stared. Captain. Mara looked at him. What? He swallowed. The entire outer galaxy just went dark. One star disappeared, then another, then hundreds, then thousands. The ancient civilization activated every defense system on the planet. Millions of ancient warships moved into formation. For the first time, the voice sounded afraid. They found us. Mara stared at the darkness spreading across the galaxy. How long until they reached this system? The answer came. 43 minutes. Mara looked at the human crew, then at the Aethel fleet waiting beyond the gateway, then at the ancient fleet. 3 civilizations. Humanity, the Aethel, the Origin, and somewhere beyond the stars, the architects were coming. Mara smiled. Then we've got 43 minutes. Chen stared at her. To do what? Mara looked toward the millions of ancient warships. To remind the galaxy why humanity came back. The Resolute turned toward the approaching darkness, and for the first time in 70,000 years, the first civilization opened every weapon it possessed. 43 minutes. That was all the time humanity had left. Mara stood on the bridge of the Resolute staring at the tactical display. The galaxy was disappearing, 1 star at a time. Entire systems were going dark along the outer edge of the map. The darkness wasn't spreading randomly. It was moving toward them, straight toward the ancient world of Origin. Chen looked at the display. They're moving faster than anything we've ever recorded. Mara nodded. How many? Unknown. Give me your best estimate. Chen hesitated. Billions. The bridge went silent. Mara didn't react. She had expected a large fleet. She had not expected an army large enough to fill an entire region of space. Then the Aethel fleet arrived. Millions of silver warships emerged from the gateway. Their leader appeared on the bridge. We are ready. Mara looked at him. Do you know what we're fighting? The Aethel leader shook his head. We have fought the Devourers. That's not what I asked. He understood. No. Mara looked toward the ancient Origin fleet. The ancient ships were enormous. Some were larger than moons. Others looked like artificial planets covered in weapons. The Aethel leader stared at them. We have never seen this technology. Mara smiled. Neither have we. Then a new voice filled the bridge. You will. Mara turned. The Origin civilization had joined the channel. Their voice sounded different now. Less like an ancient machine, more like a living being. We have awakened every defense system. Mara asked, Can you stop them? There was a pause. No. Chen looked at Mara. The ancient voice continued, But we can hurt them. Mara smiled. That will do. She opened a fleet-wide channel. Every human ship received the message. Humanity has spent 200 years beyond the galaxy. The fleet listened. We were told there was nothing out there. We were told we would die. We were told we didn't belong. Mara paused. But we survived. Across thousands of ships, human soldiers prepared weapons. We built new worlds. We built new families. We built a future. Mara looked toward the stars. And now someone wants to take it from us. Her voice became harder. They can try. The human fleet answered with a single transmission. We are ready. The first architect ships appeared 11 minutes later. There was no warning, no hyperspace distortion, no energy signature. Space simply opened. A black structure emerged. Then another. Then thousands. Then millions. Mara stared. The architect fleet didn't look like a fleet. It looked like a moving wall. A wall made of darkness. The largest vessel was impossible to measure. It was larger than Earth's moon, and behind it were thousands more. Chen whispered, Those aren't ships. Mara looked at him. What are they? Worlds. Mara understood. The architects had turned planets into weapons. Their civilization wasn't built around warships. Their civilization had transformed entire worlds into military platforms. Then the largest structure transmitted. A figure appeared. It was humanoid, but Mara couldn't see its face. It was covered in black armor. Behind it stretched a field of stars. The architect spoke. Humanity. Mara stepped forward. I'm listening. You have been hidden for 70,000 years. Mara frowned. You've been looking for us. Yes. Why? The architect answered simply. Because you are unfinished. Mara stared. What does that mean? You possess something no other civilization possesses. Freedom? No. The architect's voice became colder. Choice. Mara smiled. That sounds like the same thing. It is not. The architect continued. Choice produces unpredictability. And unpredictability produces resistance. Mara looked at the fleet behind him. You're afraid of us. The architect didn't answer. Mara smiled. I'll take that as a yes. The architect raised one hand. The entire fleet activated. The Aethel leader immediately ordered his forces forward. Millions of Aethel ships moved into position. The Origin fleet followed. Humanity moved with them. The three civilizations formed a single defensive wall. Then the architects fired. The first attack was unlike anything Mara had ever seen. There was no explosion, no beam, no missile. Space itself cracked. A wave of energy crossed the battlefield. Thousands of ships simply disappeared. Human Aethel Origin, gone. Mara watched the casualty numbers climb. Hold formation. The human fleet responded. Railguns fired, missiles launched. Energy weapons burned through the darkness. Aethel weapons folded space. Origin weapons shattered entire sections of the architect fleet. For a moment, the enemy formation broke. Then it repaired itself. Mara frowned. Chen. Yes? They're regenerating. Not exactly. What do you mean? Chen pointed toward the sensors. They're replacing destroyed ships with new ones. Mara stared. From where? Chen looked toward the largest architect world. From that. Mara understood. The enormous planet-sized vessel was manufacturing ships. Millions of them. Every second. The architects had built an army that could replace its losses almost instantly. Mara opened a channel. Origin Command. The ancient civilization responded. We know. Can you destroy the manufacturing world? A pause. Yes. Then do it. The Origin fleet moved. The architect fleet immediately reacted. Thousands of enemy ships broke formation and surrounded the manufacturing world. Mara understood. It's protected. The Aethel leader spoke. We can create an opening. Mara smiled. Then create one. The Aethel fleet charged. Their ships moved faster than human sensors could track. They tore through the architect defenses. The human fleet followed. For several minutes the battlefield became chaos. Ships exploded. Planets cracked. Space itself distorted. Mara's flagship pushed forward. Target the central shield. Weapons fired. The shield trembled. Again. Again. Then it broke. The Origin fleet fired. The manufacturing world split open. Millions of ships inside it were destroyed. For the first time, the architect fleet stopped expanding. Mara smiled. We found their weakness. Then the architect appeared on every human screen. You believe this is victory? Mara looked at him. No. She raised an eyebrow. Not yet. The architect laughed. You still don't understand. The screen changed. A map of the galaxy appeared. Every human colony, every Aethel world, every Alliance planet. Then a new network appeared. Lines connected all of them. Mara stared. What is that? The architect answered. The network you have spent centuries building. Mara's eyes widened. The hyperspace network. Yes, the architect smiled. You built the road. He paused. We built the destination. Mara felt something was wrong. Explain. The architect pointed toward the galaxy. Every hyperspace route, every communication relay, every major colony, every military gate. They are connected. Mara's face became pale. You've been inside our network. We have been watching you since the day humanity left the galaxy. Chen whispered. They let us escape. Mara looked at him. The architect continued. We did not fail to stop humanity. We allowed humanity to develop. Mara's blood ran cold. Why? The architect's answer was terrifying, because we needed you to build the network. The entire bridge went silent. Mara suddenly understood. Humanity's expansion hadn't been freedom, it had been preparation. Every human colony, every hyperspace gate, every communication station, every major shipyard, every new world, all of it had been connected. The architects had been waiting, Mara whispered. You used us. Yes. The architect smiled. And now the network is complete. Across the galaxy, hyperspace gates activated, one after another. Millions of them. Human systems. Aethel systems. Alliance systems. All connected. Then the architect gave one command. Activate. The galaxy lit up, not with stars, with energy. Mara watched in horror as the entire hyperspace network began drawing power from every connected civilization. Earth, Mars, Aethel worlds, Alliance planets. Everything. The galaxy itself became a machine. Chen looked at the readings. Captain, Mara already knew. What? We aren't fighting an invasion, she looked at him. We're inside a trap. Then the architect spoke one final sentence. You were never brought back to save the galaxy. Mara stared at the enormous network. You were brought back. The architect smiled. To power it. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, billions of lights began to go dark, and humanity finally understood the true purpose of its exile. It had never been punishment. It had been preparation. The galaxy had not thrown humanity away. Someone had sent humanity into the darkness so it could grow, so it could build, so it could return. And now that humanity had returned, the architects had everything they needed. The entire galaxy was dying. Every hyperspace gate had activated. Energy was being pulled from billions of worlds and fed into the architect network. Earth's oceans began to rise. Mars lost power. Aethel cities went dark. Across hundreds of civilizations, people looked toward the sky and watched their stars fade. The architects had won. At least, that was what they believed. On the bridge of the Resolute, Mara Vance stared at the impossible network. Chen's hands were shaking. Captain, we can't shut it down. Mara looked at him. Why? Because it's connected to everything. Then, disconnect everything. Chen stared. We'd lose the entire hyperspace network. Mara nodded. Yes. The galaxy would be isolated. Yes. Billions of ships would be stranded. Yes, we might destroy our own civilization. Mara looked toward Earth, then toward the Aethel fleet, then toward the ancient origin world. No, she said quietly, we'll save it. She opened a fleet-wide channel. Every human ship heard her voice. 200 years ago, humanity was exiled. We were told that without the galaxy, we would die. We didn't. We built new worlds. We built new ships. We built a future. And now someone has turned that future against us. Mara paused. So we're going to do what humanity has always done when someone tells us there is no way out. Her voice became firm. We make one. She contacted the origin. Civilization, can you destroy the network? The ancient voice answered, yes, but it will require an energy source larger than anything we possess. Mara smiled. I think I know where we'll get it. She looked at the architect. Fleet from them. The plan was simple and completely insane. Humanity would overload its own hyperspace network. The Aethel would open every remaining gateway at once. The origin civilization would reverse the energy flow, and instead of allowing the architects to drain the galaxy would drain the architects. The plan began. Across hundreds of worlds, human engineers activated emergency systems. Aethel ships opened thousands of spatial corridors that origin machines awakened beneath ancient planets. Then, Mara gave the final order. Disconnect the galaxy. One by one, hyperspace gates exploded. Across the stars, the network shattered. Human colonies went dark. Aethel worlds lost communication. Alliance civilizations became isolated. But the architects suddenly realized something was wrong. Their network was no longer receiving energy. was sending energy back. Millions of hyperspace gates became weapons. The energy of the Architect fleet flowed backward. Their ships began shutting down. The enormous black vessels cracked. For the first time, the Architect commander sounded afraid. "What have you done?" Mara looked at him. "We chose." The Architect screamed. "You cannot destroy what you do not understand." Mara smiled. "That's the thing about humans." She looked at the millions of human ships around her. "We don't have to understand everything before we try." The Origin fleet fired. A wave of ancient energy crossed the galaxy. The Architect network collapsed one by one. Their enormous ships disappeared. The blackness surrounding the galaxy broke. Apart stars returned. Then silence. The war was over. Humanity had won, but victory had a price. The hyperspace network was destroyed. The galaxy was divided again. Travel between distant worlds became difficult. Trade collapsed. Millions of ships were stranded. The old Galactic Alliance had effectively ceased to exist for several days. Nobody knew what would happen next. Then the Aethel leader contacted Mara. "You saved the galaxy." Mara shook her head. "No." She looked toward Earth. "We saved each other." The Aethel smiled. After 70,000 years, the promise had finally been fulfilled. But Mara still had one question. She contacted the Origin civilization. "Why did you really send humanity away?" The ancient voice answered. "Because we were afraid." "Of humanity?" "Yes, then why help us now?" A long silence followed. Then the ancient civilization replied, "Because we finally understood something." "What?" "Humanity was never dangerous because it was powerful." Mara waited. "It was dangerous because it could choose." Mara smiled. "That sounds about right." The Origin civilization continued. And today, humanity chose everyone. The connection ended. Years later, the galaxy began rebuilding. The old Galactic Council was gone. In its place stood a new federation. Humanity did not rule it. The Aethel did not rule it. The Origin civilization did not rule it. Every civilization had a voice. Every world had a choice. And nobody could ever again decide that an entire species simply did not belong. On Earth, a memorial was built for those who had died during the war. At its center stood a simple stone. The words were written in hundreds of languages. "No civilization stands alone." Mara Vance stood before it with the Aethel leader beside her. "You know," he said, "your ancestors once saved us." Mara smiled. "And now you saved us." The Aethel looked toward the stars. "Perhaps that is how civilizations should survive." Mara nodded. "Helping each other?" Yes, she looked at the sky. For 200 years, humanity had believed exile was the worst thing that had ever happened to them. They had been wrong. Exile had forced humanity to grow, had forced them to explore, to adapt, to become stronger. But most importantly, it had taught humanity something the old galaxy had forgotten. Home was not a place. Home was something you built, something you protected, something you shared. Humanity had left the galaxy as an unwanted species. It had returned as its protector. It had entered the darkness alone and returned with the first civilization, not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as equals. The stars above Earth began filling with ships. Again, human ships, Aethel ships, from worlds that had once feared humanity. And Mara smiled, because somewhere beyond those stars, new worlds were waiting, new civilizations, new mysteries, new adventures. Humanity had finally learned the truth. The galaxy could exile humanity. The galaxy could fear humanity. The galaxy could even try to destroy humanity, but it could never decide what humanity would become. Because that choice would always belong to humans, and this time, humanity chose to build a future where no civilization would ever have to stand alone again.